Hello there, people of the internet. So, because I hate myself, I went ahead and I bought myself a 2447 from Royal Tiger Imports. I see a bunch of people buying M48s and whatnot, and that's pretty common to see on the internet, but I haven't seen a whole lot on these 2447 rifles from RTI, so I figured I'd go ahead and I'd bite the bullet, and I'd pick myself up one, and I would see what it is like, and I gotta say, this thing has some problems. It will not fire as is. I was told that, whenever I was reading on their website, that it would be functional whenever I receive it. This one is not, and I will show you guys what I mean by that. So, a couple of things. First off, everyone's always interested in the bore. Is the bore going to be good? Is it going to shoot accurately, or is it going to keyhole? This one right here is fantastic. We have plenty of meat left inside of this bore, and even if we didn't, I have a milling machine, and I can go ahead and counterbore that, but I won't have to do that with this rifle, assuming that the chamber itself is not horribly pitted, and we don't have any headspace issues or anything like that. So as you can see, there's no bluing on this thing. First off, I did just remove this from the box. I didn't film that because I'm not going to make you guys sit here and watch me struggle with bubble wrap and whatnot. It was boxed, and it had one of those second coatings of cardboard on top of it, and it was wrapped in bubble wrap. There you go. It had packing peanuts inside of it too, so it was a good pack job by RTI. That being said, no finish on this thing. The stock is all sorts of banged up and whatnot. This right here was a fair to good. I think that was their designation. I would strike this more as fair. We got ourselves a crack on the stock right here. That's not really that bad of a crack. I mean, it is coming out, but I mean, a little bit of glue, and I can fix that. We do have a gouge in the stock right next to it though, so there's nothing I can do about that. That being said, take a look at this side. Oh no! Oh geez, that's one hell of a crack right there. Oh god, yeah, that is very broken. That is very broken. Now, that being said, I could probably still shoot this without any issues. We don't have any cracks on the recoil lugs. We don't have any cracks back here near the tang of the receiver. We don't have any cracks in any real major parts, so I'm not going to eat the action if this thing decides to fall apart. Besides that, barrel bands, nose cap, those are all locked up good. This right here has some interesting things going on with it. We have early types of Mauser. Early things going on that indicate early Mauser production, but we also have late things going on that indicate late Mauser production. So we got ourselves elevation adjustment on the underside of the rear sight, much like the early Car 98s. We have ourselves an H-bar nose cap on this thing, but we have ourselves a stamped setup down here. The floor plate to the magazine is stamped. We do, however, have the earlier style of well, it's like this two-screw system where you have this screw that actually locks this trigger guard and magazine assembly into the rifle, but you also have a second screw which locks the original screw in place, so you don't have to worry about that coming undone. But this is stamped, and there's something that was done by later production Mausers. Now, I don't really care about that, as long as I have myself an 8mm Mauser to fire. This stock says 5055 on it. We have some kind of cartouche there. I can't see it. I'm gonna have to clean up the stock to be able to see it, because this stock is absolutely disgusting, and there's just funk all over this rifle, which is to be expected. But 5055, this right here, I cannot read that at all. It says something 44. I'm assuming that's the factory that made it. V24/47, that's our model. We have ourselves a pretty worn crest on top of this receiver, and our serial number looks like 329421. So this is a thrown together rifle. Stock doesn't match, bolt doesn't match. I don't see a serial. Oh, there we go. 5055. All right, I guess the stock does match, so the bolt itself is just mismatched. Fantastic. I hope that headspace is properly. So the problem with this bolt, and this is why this will not work right now, the problem with the bolt is there is something physically inside of it stopping the firing pin from dropping down all the way. It only drops down about that far, and that's all you've got. So that is not going to strike the primer. That is not going to be able to actually detonate the cartridge, because this needs to go down another 1.5 millimeters or so. So that's simply not going to work. So I have to disassemble this bolt and figure out why this is not dropping. I am hoping that maybe there's just some funk in there and we don't have something bent or deformed. So I have to take that apart, and let's see what happens here. So I do want to say that there's just a ton of not only cosmoline, but rust. There's a tremendous amount of rust inside of this thing. And yeah, that does not bode well. Luckily, I am happy to see that the bore is good on this thing. So long story short, even if nothing else works out on this thing, I can at least get this thing firing. I might have to replace the bolt, hoping I don't. I'm hoping I can fix whatever is in there. With my milling machine, I should be able to basically make anything happen. So, wish me luck. I'm going to disassemble this thing. I'll let you guys know what I find. Okay, good news, bad news. Good news, it looks like the actual firing pin and safety assembly were added to this bolt body from something else, because these actually look like they're damn near new and in really, really good shape. They do have crap on them, but if you look in there, you can see a bunch of rust oil in there. And that came from our bolt body, and this thing is just decimated. That being said, there is crap that is physically inside of this bolt body, and I think that crap is what is stopping the firing pin from being able to drop completely and, you know, end up where it needs to be to set off a round. So I'm going to go ahead and clean this up the best that I can, and I'm gonna pray. Hopefully there's not like a severe amount of pitting inside of this thing that would prevent me from being able to use it. So fingers crossed. I'm going to go ahead and see what I can do with this. Okay, so I have been tinkering with this thing for several days now, and long story short, I cannot figure out for the life of me why the firing pin is not dropping all the way. Just from what I can tell, I'm fairly certain that there's parts on this Mauser that are not actually Yugo parts, because despite the fact that the firing pin is not dropping all the way, we have plenty of firing pin extrusion coming from the front of the bolt. However, that being said, we are still getting consistent light primer strikes with this rifle, and I am just absolutely, like, my mind has been boggled over this situation. As a matter of fact, let me show you guys what's actually going on with this thing. Okay, so here is the setup with the bolt. I have it in the fired position outside of the rifle. As you can see from the tail end of the sear catch right here, the firing pin is not dropped far enough for a Mauser rifle. It should go all the way down to this little notch cut out in the back of the sear. However, our firing pin is extruding plenty through the bolt face to be able to detonate a cartridge. That right there is an absolutely sufficient amount to be able to set off a round. However, that being said, we are still getting consistent light primer strikes, and I cannot for the life of me figure out what is going on with this thing. Like I said, I'm pretty sure that we have some components in here that are not actually Yugo manufacturer, Yugo spec. This right here is a different size. It's an intermediate size action as opposed to like a Car 98 action, which would be considered a long action. I think we have a longer firing pin in this thing than we actually need to have, and as a result, we're not getting the amount of travel that we need to have. So although we have plenty of extrusion coming out of the bolt face, I believe that just because of the lack of travel, that's why we're getting light primer strikes. That being said, I'm sure somebody's going to tell me, hey, throw a heavy firing pin spring in that thing and it'll be fine. I did. I've got a 29-pound firing pin spring thrown into this thing, and we're still getting the same results. So that is the conclusion that I've come to. This is a mismatched bolt, and I'm just thinking that at one point or another, somebody at some point threw in some stuff that was not designed for the Yugo Mauser, and that's probably why this thing was put up. So I am either going to have to get with RTI to get, you know, myself another bolt that has the proper spec stuff in it, or I will have to go out and find somehow Yugo stuff to be able to put together this bolt properly. Because like I said, this firing pin is obviously too long to be able to, you know, utilize this bolt. So this right here is not a usable rifle as of right now because it simply is not firing. This is the conclusion that I've come to. That being said, this right here, all things considered, other than our cracked sock, is actually a fairly decent rifle. I do like the fact that the bore in this thing is actually very, very good. I'm willing to bet that there was probably some problems with the rifle. They tried fixing it, you know, back whenever this rifle was being fielded, and some gunsmith somewhere or some field armorer somewhere threw in a probably a surplus Car 98 Mauser pin or something like that. I think it didn't work, and they were like, all right, we'll figure it out later, throw it in the rack, you know, throw it in the bin of stuff that needs to be fixed, and they never got around to fixing it. That's probably why the bore in this thing is so good. Now, this is just complete speculation on my part, but that being said, that right there is what I have been able to determine. So I guess I will have to make a part 2 follow-up for this thing whenever I actually get it up and going, because as of right now, it is not a functional rifle. I was hoping to be able to get this thing functional enough to where I can put a round or 2 through it. However, I mean, I wouldn't want to put very many rounds through it until I fix the cracks in the stock. However, I simply was not able to make that happen simply because I do not have the necessary parts to be able to make that happen. So I'm gonna get with RTI, see what I can manage to pull off in terms of having them send me the stuff that I actually need, or I'm gonna have to look into getting myself either replacement parts, or maybe there's something marred up inside the bolt itself. I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure that it's the length of the firing pin, because as you guys can see, the firing pin is not extruded all the way, but we have plenty sticking out right there. So yeah, that is the situation that I have been dealt, and I'm probably going to see if I can find myself another firing pin for this thing, throw that in, see if that solves the problem. Hopefully it does. Actually, what I'm going to do is get with RTI and see if they can solve the problem, but who knows what's going to happen with them. Fingers crossed. But if they don't work out, then I'll try a new firing pin. Hopefully that takes care of the situation. And that being said, hey folks, thanks for watching. Appreciate your time. This right here is absolutely a luck of the draw we get from RTI. Sometimes their stuff is good, sometimes their stuff is not so much, but it's all surplus stuff. It is literally luck of the draw. They get it from some surplus warehouse somewhere, and they're like, all right, we'll go ahead and take it directly from that surplus warehouse, put it into the hands of the consumer. There you go. You got yourself your rifle, how it was left. So hey, thanks for watching. Appreciate your time. Like, subscribe, share. Description below, link to all sorts of stuff. Go and go check that out. I'm gonna see what I can go ahead and pull off for this thing. You guys go off, have yourself a fantastic day. Since I've done this. Bonnie and Clyde be damned. Poor man's Gary. Shame that bolt action shotguns aren't more mainstream.